Islam, the way to God by submission. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful. This sentence translates the Arabic text above from the Quran. It continues, Praise be to Allah, Lord of the worlds, the Beneficent, the Merciful, owner of the day and day of judgment. Thee alone we worship. Thee alone we ask for help. Show us the straight path, the path of those whom thou hast favored, not the path of those who earn thy anger, nor of those who go astray. The Quran Surah 1 1 through 7 MMP. These words from Al Fatiha, the first chapter or surah of the Muslim holy book, the Holy Quran or Quran, since more than 1 in 6 of the world's population is Muslim, and devout Muslims repeat these verses at least 5 times in their daily prayers. These must be among the most recited words on earth. Footnote Quran, which means resuscitation, is the spelling favored by Muslim writers and the one we will use here. It should be noted that Arabic is the original language of the Quran, and in English there is no universal accepted translation. In quotations, the first number represents the chapter or surah, and the second is verse number. According to one source, there are over 900 million Muslims in the world, making Islam second only to the Roman Catholic Church in numbers. It is perhaps the fastest growing major religion in the world, with an expanding Muslim movement in Africa and the Western world. The name Islam is significant to a Muslim, for it means submission, surrender, or commitment to Allah. And according to one historian, it expresses the innermost attitude of those who have hearkened to the preaching of Muhammad. Muslims mean Muslim means one who makes or does Islam. Footnotes. The Quran and the Bible. He has revealed to you the book with the truth, confirming the scriptures with which preceded it. For he has already revealed the Torah and the Gospel for the guidance of men, and the distinction between right and wrong. Surah 3:2. Almost all the historic narratives of the Quran have their biblical parallels. Among the Old Testament characters, Adam, Noah, Abraham, mentioned about 70 times in 25 different surahs, and having his name as a title for Surah 14. Ishmael, Lot, Joseph, to whom Surah 12 is dedicated. Moses, whose name occurs in 34 different surahs. Saul, David, Solomon, Elijah, Job, and Jonah, whose name Surah 10 bears. Figure prominently. The story of creation and fall of Adam is cited 5 times. The flood 8 and Sodom 8. In fact, the Quran shows more parallelisms to the Pentateuch than to any other part of the Bible. Of the Old Testament characters, Zechariah, John the Baptist, Jesus, and Mary are the only ones emphasized. A comparative study of the Quranic and biblical narratives reveals no verbal dependence, no direct quotation. History of Arabs. Muslims believe that their faith is the culmination of the revelations given to the faithful Hebrews and Christians of old. However, their teachings diverge from the Bible on some points, even though they cite both the Hebrew and Greek scriptures in Quran. To understand the Muslim faith better, we need to know how, where, and when this religion started. Footnote Muslim tradition says that Muhammad ascended to heaven from this rock in the dome of the rock Jerusalem. Muhammad's calling. Muhammad was born in Mecca, Arabic Mecca, Saudi Arabia, about 570 CE. His father, Abd Allah, died before Muhammad's birth. His mother, Amina, died when he was about 6 years old. At the time, the Arabs practiced a form of worship of Allah that was centered in the Mecca Valley, at the sacred site of the Kaaba, a simple cube like building where a black meteorite was revealed. According to Islamic tradition, The Kaaba was originally built by Adam according to a celestial prototype, and after the deluge, rebuilt by Abraham and Ishmael. History of Arabs by Philip K. Hitti. It became a sanctuary for 360 idols, one for each day of the lunar year. As Muhammad grew up, he questioned the religious practices of his day. John Noss, in his book Man's Religion, states Muhammad was disturbed by incessant quarrelings in the avowed interest of religion and honor among Quraysh chiefs. Muhammad belonged to that tribe. Stronger still was his dissatisfaction with the primitive survivals in Arabian religion, the idolatrous polytheism and animisms, the immorality at religious convocations and fairs, the drinking, gambling, and dancing that were fashionable, and the burial alive of unwanted infant daughters, practiced not only in Mecca but throughout Arabia. Surah 6 137. Muhammad's call to be a prophet took place when he was about 40 years of age. He had the custom of going alone to a nearby mountain cave called Gah Hira for a meditation, and he claimed that it was on one of these occasions that he received the call to be a prophet. Muslim tradition relates that while he was there, an angel, later identified as Gabriel, commanded him to recite in the name of Allah. Muhammad failed to respond, so the angel caught him forcefully and pressed him so hard that he could not bear it anymore. A couple footnotes. Muslims believe that the Bible contains revelations of God, but that some of them were falsified later. In English, the prophet name has various spellings. Mohammed. Most Muslim sources prefer Muhammad, which we will use. Turkish Muslims prefer Muhammad. Then the angel repeated the command again. Muhammad failed to react, so the angel choked him again. This occurred 3 times before Muhammad started to recite what came to be viewed as the first of a series of revelations that constitute the Quran. Another tradition relates that divine inspiration was revealed to Muhammad like the ringing of a bell. The Book of Revelation from Sahih al Bukhari. Revelation of Quran. What is said to have been the first revelation received by Muhammad, Islamic authorities generally agree that it was the first 5 verses of Surah 96 entitled Alaq, the clot of blood, which reads, In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, read in the name of thy Lord who created man from a clot, read, and thy Lord is the most bounteous, who taught by the pen, taught man that which he knew not. According to the Arabic source, the Book of Revelation, Muhammad answered, I do not know how to read. Therefore, he had to memorize the revelations so that he could repeat and recite them. The Arabs were skilled in the use of memory, and Muhammad was no exception. How long did it take him to receive the complete message of the Quran? It is generally believed that the revelations came during a period of some 20 to 23 years, from about 610 CE to his death in 632 CE. Muslim sources explain that upon receiving each footnote, Muslim pilgrims at Mecca walk 7 times around the Kaaba and touch or kiss the black stone lower left. Revelation, Muhammad immediately recited it to those who happened to be near. These in turn committed the revelation to memory and by recitation kept it alive. Since the manufacture of paper was unknown to the Arabs, Muhammad had the revelations written down by scribes on the primitive materials then available, such as shoulder blades of camels, palm leaves, wood, and parchment. However, it was not until after the Prophet's death that the Quran took its present form under the guidance of Muhammad's successors and companions. This was during the rule of the first three caliphs or Muslim leaders. Translator Muhammad Pickthall writes, all the surahs of the Quran had been recorded in writing before the Prophet's death, and many Muslims had committed the whole Quran to memory. But the written surahs were dispersed among the people, and when in a battle a large number of those who knew the whole Quran by heart were killed, a collection of the whole Quran was made and put in writing. Islamic life is governed by three authorities: the Quran, the Hadith, and the Sharia. Muslims believe that the Quran in Arabic is the purest form of the revelation, since they say it was the language used by God in speaking through Gabriel. Surah 43:3 states, "We have made it a Quran in Arabic, that ye may be able to understand and learn wisdom." Thus, any translation is viewed as only a dilution that involves a loss of purity. In fact, some Islamic scholars refuse to translate the Quran. Their viewpoint is that to translate it is always to betray, and therefore Muslims have always deprecated and at times prohibited any attempt to render it in another language, states Dr. J. A. Williams, lecturer on Islamic history. The three sources of teachings and guidance. The Holy Quran said to have been revealed to Muhammad by the angel Gabriel. The Quran's meaning and words in Arabic are viewed as inspired. The Hadith or Sunnah, the deeds, utterances, and silent approval, tariq of the Prophet fixed during the second century in the form of written hadiths. A hadith therefore is a record of an action or sayings of the Prophet. It can also be applied to the actions or sayings of any of Muhammad's companions or their successors. And a hadith only the meaning of is viewed as inspired history of the Arabs. The Sharia or canon law based on principles of the Quran regulates a Muslim's entire life in the religious, political, and social senses. All man's acts are classified under five legal categories: what is considered absolute duty, involving reward for acting or punishment for failing to act; commendable or meritorious actions, involving a reward but no punishment for omission; permissible actions, which are legal indifferent; reprehensible actions, which are disapproved but not punishable; forbidden actions, the doing of which calls for punishment. History of the Arabs. Islamic expansion. Muhammad founded his new faith against great odds. The people of Mecca, even of his own tribe, rejected him. After 13 years of persecution and hatred, he moved his center of activity north of Yathrib, which then became known as Al Madin, Medina, the city of the Prophet. This immigration of the Hijra in 622 CE marked a significant point in Islamic history, and the date was later adopted as the starting point for the Islamic calendar. Footnote: thus, the Muslim year is given as AH, Latin Anno Hegel, year of the flight, rather than AD, Anno Domini, year of the Lord, or CE, Common Era. Eventually, Muhammad achieved dominance when Mecca surrendered to him in January of 630 CE, 88 AH, and he became its ruler. With the reins of secular and religious controls in his hands, he was able to clean out the idolatrous images from the Kaaba and establish it as the focal point for pilgrimages to Mecca that continue down to this day. Within a few decades of Muhammad's death in 632 CE, Islam had spread as far as Afghanistan and even in Tunisia in North Africa. By the early 8th century, the faith of the Quran had penetrated into Spain and was at the French border. As Professor Ninian Smart stated in his book Background to the Long Search, looked at from a human point of view, the achievement of an Arabian prophet living in the 6th and 7th centuries after Christ is staggering. Humanly, it was from him that a new civilization flowed. But of course, for the Muslim, the work was divine and the achievement that of Allah. Muhammad's death leads to division. The Prophet's death provoked a crisis. He died without any male progeny and without a clearly designated successor. As Philip Hiddy states, the Caliphate, office of Caliph, is therefore the oldest problem Islam had to face. It is still a living issue. In the words of Muslim historian Al Sharastani, 1086 to 1153, never was there an Islamic issue which brought about more bloodshed than the Caliphate. How was the problem solved back there in 632 CE? Abu Bakr was designated June 8th, 632, Muhammad's successor by some form of election in which those leaders present at the capital of Al Madinah took part. History of the Arabs. The successor to the Prophet would be a ruler, Khalifa or Caliph. However, the question of the true successor to Muhammad became a cause for divisions in the ranks of Muslim. The Sunni Muslims accept the principle of elective office rather than blood descent from the Prophet. Therefore, they believe that the first three caliphs, Abu Bakr, Muhammad's father in law, Umar, the Prophet's advisor, and Uthman, the Prophet's son in law, were the legitimate successors to Muhammad. That claim is contested by the Shiite Muslims, who say that the true leadership comes through the Prophet's bloodline and through his cousin and son in law, Ali ibn Abi Talib, the first Imam, leader and successor, who married Muhammad's favorite daughter, Fatima.